Hey guys, what's up? It's Drew here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Ikelos SMG. So this weapon is available this week from Escalation Protocol from beating the level 7 boss, which is Cathok Roar of Zol. However, it is a random drop from beating the boss, so you might need to grind for this one, depending on how RNG treats you. I was really interested in this weapon because it's one of the new 750 RPM SMGs, and I believe it's the only one in the energy slot. Not only that, but it's got some really decent stats all around, as well as some interesting perks to take a look at, so let's get right into it. So firstly, as I mentioned, this is one of the new aggressive SMGs that fires at 750 RPM and has 22 impact. It deals 16 damage to the head and 15 damage to the body, resulting in a 1 second flat time to kill with 6 crit 7 body against a 5 resilience guardian, and a 1.07 second base time to kill, taking 14 body shots again against a 5 resilience guardian. Now taking a look at our perks, we have to start with some barrel options. We have corkscrew rifling, which slightly increases range, stability, and handling. Fluted barrel, which greatly increases handling but only slightly increases stability, and then small bore, which increases your range and stability. Out of these barrel options, I really enjoyed using fluted barrel and small bore the best. Small bore is great because it increases range and stability, which are just important stats on any weapon, and it's always good to have. And on fluted barrel, I really liked the increased handling. It was a really significant increase to handling, which is great when paired with a masterwork. And this also allows you to use the disruption break perk, which we'll talk about in a second, a lot better because of the faster swap speed. As I just mentioned, the disruption break perk is the unique perk on this SMG, and what it does is breaking enemy shields with this SMG makes them more vulnerable to kinetic damage. So what exactly does this mean, and what exactly does this perk do? Well, when you break an enemy's shields with this SMG, they get a debuff that says they're more vulnerable to kinetic damage, and what that means is you're able to switch over to your kinetic weapon and deal more damage. So any damage after breaking shields, it does say specifically on the perk, I didn't mention this, that it says more increased precision damage. That is not the case. It deals more body shot damage and headshot damage, so any damage after breaking the shields from a kinetic weapon is increased by 50%. As much as I think that's a significant boost in damage and this perk has quite a bit of potential, I do think it's a rather niche perk. Reason being is because there's very few times where you're going to be killing someone with an SMG, then purposely stopping and swapping out to your kinetic weapon to get the increased damage. It just doesn't make sense for the majority of scenarios. However, there are scenarios where it can work, where if you break someone's shields and you're using cover or have cover available, you can back out and then pop right back out with a different weapon, your kinetic weapon, and get that increased damage. A combo that I really like so far is using this with the Crimson hand cannon. Like I said, breaking someone's shield, popping back into cover, swapping to Crimson, and only having to hit one burst to the body and getting all my health back from that is pretty awesome. There's other combos that you can do like this with other hand cannons and other weapons, and I think that's where this perk's potential really lies. Another thing you can do with this SMG is break the shields of an enemy in their super, then bust out your kinetic weapon and melt them. So again, a niche perk, but I think it has a lot of potential. The next perk we have are Seraph rounds. Now this is a hybrid of ricochet rounds and armor piercing rounds that's present on all of the Ikelos Seraph weapons. You get both effects of armor piercing rounds and ricochet rounds. So for ricochet rounds, you're going to get that 9% increase to range, and it's going to act like your rangefinder type perk. And on top of that, you're going to get the added bonus of armor piercing rounds. So it's just not incredible, it's not insane to have armor piercing rounds as well, but it's a nice added effect. The big thing though is that Seraph rounds is going to act like a rangefinder, just as ricochet rounds does as well. Lastly, we get the choice of either Grave Robber or Threat Detector. Now, neither of these perks are incredibly influential to me, but if I had to choose one, I would go with Threat Detector. Reason being is because if you're playing competitive or trials where there's no radar, you can actually get pings from getting the Threat Detector buff in the bottom left to see when an enemy is near you, so it's almost like a small radar. So it's got an interesting utility for that reason, so that's why I go with it. Moving on now to our weapon stats, this is with small bore equipped. 60 range, 42 target acquisition, 45 stability, 90 recoil direction, 32 reload speed, and 73 handling. To start with stability, as much as this weapon had a low stability stat, it was honestly hard to notice. The recoil felt quite easy to control and never really impeded my ability to hit a target reliably. It could be the recoil direction stat of 90 that could be the reason for this. The recoil on the weapon felt pretty vertical for the most part, and while shooting, the crosshairs never really bounced around too drastically or awkwardly. Now, even though the Imminent Storm, another 750 RPM archetype SMG, had better stability and recoil direction stats, I felt that the Ikelos SMG had a tighter bullet spread overall and more controllable recoil than it. Overall, stability felt pretty good compared to other SMGs, and I didn't really notice it as an issue in any way. As for range, with a range stat of 60, with of course small bore equipped, this SMG started experiencing damage drop-off at 17 meters. With a masterwork for range, you can expect to have 1 more meter added onto that, and with fluted barrel, you can expect 1 meter less. This makes it pretty comparable to most other SMGs, like the Hero's Burden as an example, which experiences drop-off at 19 meters. As much as it had the potential to deal damage at most good ranges and reasonable ranges, I felt it was harder to shoot with at further ranges compared to the other SMGs because of its low zoom sights. Of course, low zoom does make it maybe easier to use in closer range, but again, a little harder to use against medium zoom sights of other SMGs at farther ranges. Weapons like the Antiope and the Hero's Burden do have those medium zoom sights that, because of the increased magnification, make it easier to shoot targets at range. Seraph rounds, like I said, do act like rangefinder, which is fantastic, but its range increase is somewhat cancelled out by medium zoom sights on other SMGs by comparison. If this weapon did have a bit higher zoom sights or medium zoom sights as well as Seraph rounds, it could be maybe one of the best SMGs in the game, I think. For now though, I think it's really good and interesting, but perhaps not great. Finally, for handling and reload speed wasn't particularly great on the weapon. I noticed it was maybe a little sluggish, but it didn't really bother me. I did notice it in comparison to the other SMGs though that I would normally use with a faster reload speed. Handling though was incredible. This weapon has great ADS and swap speeds, and with fluted barrel you can trade 1 meter of range for 86 handling, which if you add on a masterwork is 96 handling. Why would you want handling? Well, handling is a good consideration with this weapon, considering it doesn't cost you a whole ton of range. It's not going to really make or break the weapon's range, and it makes it easier to take advantage of the disruption break perk with faster swap times. As far as what I can recommend for a masterwork, either handling or range would be my best suggestion. More range is always beneficial, especially since this SMG is just a tad short of having some pretty great range and doesn't have medium zoom sights. Handling though really plays to its strengths and makes it incredibly quick and snappy, and like I mentioned, really fast to swap in and out of, which of course allows you to swap to your kinetic weapon faster to take advantage of the disruption break perk if you want to. As a whole, I think the Ikelos SMG has a lot going for it. The archetype in general doesn't rely on headshots for a good time to kill, which is great, and it's got a mix of good stats, maybe not the best stats, but good stats and some really interesting perks to take advantage of. As much as it has the ability to retain damage at range, I wish it really had those medium zoom sights to be something special and compete with the best SMGs in the game. Regardless, it's still a solid SMG with good stats and again, interesting perks that give it a lot of potential. So if you happen to get it from the Escalation Protocol and grind for it, try it out and tell me what you think about it. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the review. We are still doing our emblem giveaway for Planet of Peace, so all you have to do to enter that is subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, click the bell there, and then leave your Battle.net, PSN, or Xbox Live in the comments below so I know how to contact you if you win. As always, thank you guys so much for watching once again. It's been Drew here today, and I'll catch you guys later.